Hello and welcome back to Homemade Adventures UK. Today I will be talking about how I home educate 3 children, different ages, different abilities, and would be different years in the UK. So I have a 5-year-old who would be reception age, and I have a 9-year-old who would be year 4. Sorry, I follow whoever my friends or family's children in that year. I think he'll be year 4, 9, and a 10-year-old who would be in year 6 going to year 7. She would be in September. Never been to school, so they have always been home educated, and we don't know any different. So this is our life, and up until last year we didn't follow an actual curriculum. Sorry, not last year, the year before. We're in our 2nd year, but now we follow a classical model of education with classical conversations, abbreviated to CC. You might have heard me talk about it a lot because it is a massive part of our home ed life now, and I will just be going through just how I navigate those the different things that we do. So without further ado, cup of tea in the hand. Please join me with a cuppa if you've got one. Cup of tea. Oh, that's so British, isn't it? I don't usually drink tea. Well, I didn't until I had my eldest child. I was actually didn't like coffee, but now coffee has replaced tea for me. I used to be a massive tea drinker, but now I'm a massive coffee drinker, at least 1, maybe 2 a day. Yes, I love me a coffee. It keeps me going as well. People ask me, how do I do it? Jesus and coffee. Seriously, those are that's my fuel. Yeah, definitely Jesus and coffee. So semi joking is the same. And I've recently found Tenzing natural Red Bull, which I found the loophole because I used to be a Red Bull drinker, which I called petrol or anything similar, the cheap versions in Tesco. Eventually realized that it's not wise to drink, so transferred and now found Tenzing, and it's great. It's got like green tea. Oh my gosh, if Tenzing wants to sponsor me, I'm your fan. Like, people know me as the Tenzing woman now, especially at CC. Classical conversations when we have our community day. So I'll be delving into how I home ed those 3. Oh my gosh, I said 4. Oh gosh, definitely 3 blessings of mine, and just take you through a little glimpse. As I've said before, there's no day is the same. Like today we deviated from swimming lessons. Instead of coming straight home, so today's Monday, so instead of coming straight home, I stopped off at a deer park that we live near, because I had some veg that was going off in the fridge and I didn't want it to be wasted. I hate wasting food. So we ended up, it was meant to be a quick visit, but the weather was so nice. We ended up there being there for 2 hours, and when I was watching the children, just they were having a whale of a time. They built a fort in the there's some massive trees there. Oh, it's gorgeous. And I was, to be honest, I was enjoying the fresh air, and I was doing admin, and I was just booking some things. Actually, it was a good time for me as well, until I realized I had frozen food that I just bought and I forgot about. So there you go. That's part of home ed. You can be flexible, but remember to take your frozen food home. Whoops, thank God it didn't thaw. It wasn't that hot today, like roasting, so it didn't melt. Anyway, I digress. What I'm trying to say is that we were able to do that, and we came home and did what we had to do as well, or what we choose to do. So it's all good. We had a good day. And I don't know about you, but when spring comes, I am out there. I'm just enjoying this, the vitamin D that we feels like we really get in this lovely country. So, as I mentioned before, I try to wake up at least half an hour to an hour before the children to get my, minds going, pray, work out, wash. I actually do intermittent fasting now, so I don't have breakfast. So I'm usually ready for them when they wake up. Usually, not always, but usually, thankfully. So then it's just me helping them get ready. And then we will sit down and do a devotional. So we're on this book at the moment. So we just finished reading through the whole Dorling Kindersley Children's Bible. So now we're on Indescribable. And I like something from the Word of God. And this is obviously more of a devotion, not just reading the Bible, but I love the DK one because it had history of the Bible, and then it always leads us into a discussion. So like today, this is brand new, we just started. So we were talking about the beginning when there was nothing, and then it was really good because I like to ask questions. We asked a lot of questions, and so we do that in the morning to set us off. We like to say God first, the rest will follow. I've found that to be true with us. So, and then usually after, because we're already in the mode and we're sitting there, if we don't have to rush out, we will read our story of the world, and this coincides with our curriculum, and they encouraged us. This was one of the resources that they encouraged us to buy alongside it, because you can delve, the curriculum is substantial enough, but you can add as much or even take away as much as you want. So we read Story of the World, and it's just a really good way to, it's chronological, and this one is ancient times, so it goes from the earliest nomads to the last Roman emperor. Right now we are at I think the China Shang dynasty, and it just really brings history to life. And again, we have great conversations from these. I think the writer Susan Weisbauer, she's a herald of the classical model as well. Classical model is literally based on the trivium, if you can see here, and trivium means 3 roads, and it starts with the grammar and the first stage, which is where all my children are at right now, but my eldest is going up towards dialectic. But grammar is the knowledge, that's the facts, terms, basic skills, repetition, songs and chants. So this is what they call the parrot stage, where it's just soaking up all that information through fun, play, song, dance. If you noticed in children, they love learning through song, ABCD, or anything, and just playing. And I think it's even learning without even realizing you're learning is the best way, like through play, exploration, questioning. And then as they move up, it comes now into the understanding part. So it's how the facts fit together. And it's the natural progression of around the age of between 10 and 12. It's the natural progression where they start to get not just more curious, but actually the why, the deep whys, not just why, you know what it's like when they're really young and they're just whying about everything. But this is the actual, no, I want to have understanding. I want to know for myself, and I want to start building my own convictions, my own what I believe. And I'm having some really interesting conversations with my eldest now, and it's just really shown me that it is the natural progression of growth, of the development of their development. And then the third stage, which is like the teenage years, you get into rhetoric, which is logic and rhetoric, and that's what they call wisdom, the wisdom stage. So it's the proper use of knowledge and understanding. So that to me is like the cherry on top. Oh my gosh. So one of my main draws to this classical conversations curriculum was the whole logic, like, using your God-given brain, being taught how to use that. And I didn't know it was a classical model that I was looking for. I didn't know that was what I was leaning to when we wrote the list of why we wanted our children to be home educated. It was a lot of it lined up with the classical model, and the classical model, it doesn't really mean it's I know it sounds archaic because it sounds like, well, it's classical, so what's the point? Like, you know, well, it sounds old, but it's actually not. It's just the way that has been working for years and years and years. All those great minds, the Da Vinci, Leonardo da Vinci, Shakespeare, all, you know, Einstein, they were all classically like the form of education was the classical model and the natural progression, and it was like not separating the subjects were interwoven. And I've noticed that when we're studying these great minds of old, they were multifaceted. So for instance, Da Vinci, he was an architect and a mathematician and a scientist and an inventor. You know, even Benjamin Franklin, I spoke about him before, I just think he's amazing. Like, you know, imagine, but nowadays you see a lot more compartmentalization, a lot more, they say, you know, to niche down, master, but actually you need to realize that there's synergy with the subjects like maths and science, and, you know, they fuse like English, like, you know, everything just knits together. So we are so this book, The Core, just breaks that down so wonderfully. Lee Bortins, she actually is the brain that God used to develop the classical conversations curriculum, which is, this is my what we call foundations guide, and that coincides with the grammar stage, so the first stage. So the children would do this from 4 years old to 12 years old, and that this breaks it up into, I love it because it's so concise, like it's so handy for me. So it just breaks it up into week by week, and it runs for 24 weeks throughout the year. So we get all the holidays off, and we get a break in between, so where we can maybe catch up or do whatever we want, basically. But it's not like super demanding, and it's only once a week. So we meet on a Wednesday for 24 weeks, but that's until they're 12, and then from 12 they start what we call the challenge program, which coincides with the rhetoric stage, the third stage, and then it will increase by 6 weeks, so it will just be 30 weeks, but obviously because they'll be doing more work. But if you can see here, I can't show it all, but so we'll focus on math, Latin, science, English, timeline, and history and geography. That's what we call our grammar. So every day for the 5 days, on community day, that's when this is showcased to the children and the parents, and then you will literally just go through the work. It's a lot of memory, it's a lot of repetition, it's a lot of just, in the core, Lee Bortins, the analogy she gives is like you're just creating pegs for them to hang more information on later. And I can testify to this because there's a lot of stuff. Okay, for example, I used to hate history. I used to think it was useless information, like it's in the past, like why do we need to now I know, big mistake. If you don't know history, you're prone to repeat the same mistakes. I don't know who was that quote, please tell me, but I'm sure Google can tell me. But you know what I mean, it's like what I was missing, so much richness, and even understanding how we got to this place, why we're at this place, or you know whatnot. And what you find, like my children love history, and I think it's the way it's presented and the relevance it's presented with. So they're not just sitting there. For example, last week we did tell me about the United Kingdom's first female prime minister, which we know is Thatcher. So there was a song about Margaret Thatcher, and then at home we delved, because she's dubbed the Iron Lady, so we did a bit of research. Okay, where did that come from? Why? So you can go into as much detail or not as you want, but Cece just says for every day you just go over the information 7 times, and that's if you say it or if they say it back. So honestly, it takes about half an hour to go through it. And then on community day, we do fine arts, so some form of art, whether that be music, tin whistle they learn, or actually doing art, or orchestra, where I'm right now at the moment. So learning about the orchestra, learning about famous composers. But this is operating at this stage, we're operating, and actually it's going to be throughout until they get older, but we're operating something called the one room schoolhouse. So that term is just how it was done before, where there's all mixed ages. At CC, they are broken up into only a few ages apart. So, for example, the first group is 4 to 6. Then you've got the 7 to 9s, and then you've got some 9 to 12 now, because they had their birthdays. So they are a bit varied, and obviously at home you have more variation. And the one room schoolhouse is basically, okay, everyone's learning similar, but maybe in different ways, or expanding in different areas. So that's one way that we do that with our curriculum. It's in the mornings, just that half an hour, it's all together. And then we have chosen, these are our add-ons now. If we wanted, we could just leave it at that. For my younger two, the 9 and the 5-year-old, because they haven't gone up to the second program in classical conversations. The second stage, the one that coincides with the dialectic stage, is what they call essentials. Now, essentials is the English language curriculum of classical conversation. So as I said, this is now where they start their understanding, and they start learning how to get that information that has been stored there onto paper or out orally in a very concise and very understandable and quite a high level, to be honest, way. Because foundations is in the morning, they do that in the morning, and then from 9 years old to 12 years old, so for 3 years they'll do essentials. Essentials is a 3-tour program, and they do that alongside IEW, which is short for the Institute of Excellence in Writing, and that is what it says on the tin. It teaches them excellence in writing. It's teaching me excellence in writing. It's changed so what this is, guys, a classical model of education will always start with the foundation, the grammar. You think about the analogy again that Lee uses in the core. Think about you're building a palace. Any building, you have to start with the foundation. You need a strong foundation. So for example, it's like this whole, let's jump to creative writing without teaching them grammar. It doesn't really work, because if you don't have the grounding of the knowledge if you don't know the language of the subject, for example, everything's just a language. Like English has a language of how to use it. Math has its own language. Science has its own language. But if you don't know the language, it's like going to a country and you're just lost, because you don't. And how many of us can testify? I can testify of that. A lot of lost, wandering, just hitting in the dark, not really understanding what I was doing. And the whole concept of a classical model of education is that they're learning the skill of learning. So once you have the skill of learning, you can apply that to whatever God has for you, right? So because once you have a skill, it's transferable. It's it's a skill, and you've acquired it, and it can't be taken, and you can apply that to whatever job, because actually everything is just a language. It's just it has its own, I don't know, say, okay, you want to be a pilot. Well, you're going to have to find out how the controls work, the operation, you know, and it's just learning that world, that language. And if they have that skill, it can be applied to whatever it is that, you know, God has for them. So where were we? So that's what we do first, kind of our first things. And then, so for example, at the moment, this is our little book that we love to do again together. And even my little one, who's 5, even though I don't obviously expect as much from her as I do from my eldest, but it's amazing what they pick up. And actually, don't limit them, like, you know, because they are sponges at that age. But this is English learning with root words. So we've realised that some words, no, sorry, not some, a lot of words. So I did mention that Latin is, we do Latin in classical conversations, because Latin is the grammar, is the foundation of the English language. So that is why we study Latin, because if you understand Latin, you'll understand English more. And then we just chose to delve a bit deeper. And because if they come across words, for instance, they can, okay, if they see Cosmo, they know that that's to do with the universe. So cosmonaut, cosmos, sorry, microcosm, cosmic, cosmology. So they'll know, okay, that's to do with the universe. So it's just, and we like to delve, we as a family, we like to delve a bit more. Okay, so as I say, we do that every day. This is my quick guide. So if I'm out, I can actually just take this with me, and we can maybe do this on the train, or well, during ice skating break, ice skating lesson breaks, or wherever. So it's really good because I'm not limited to just doing this at home, and we listen to the songs in the car or at home or wherever. So I do that. And then what I love about classical conversations, they have a lot of extra resources. So for example, the timeline has over 160 world events. Now, okay, they can't put every single event that has happened, but it's pretty, you know, it's not bad for, and they learn that every year. And then along with that, they have 100 and so many, over 100 and over 100 at least of these cards that coincide with the timeline. So every week they have these cards, and it's really good because they have a picture. So this is, for example, I just grabbed this because this is part of this week's, the Vietnam War 1965, and in the back it's just got a description of what happened and the dates and what was happening around that time, so then they can get a good picture of what was going on. And then if you want to delve deeper, you can, and sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. We've got these we bought these this year, and they're just scientists, mainly scientists, interestingly enough. Not just scientists. I've realised there's a lot of mathematicians in there. There's a lot of inventors, really interesting stuff. So even medical doctors and whatnot. But again, it's chronological as well. So we're just reading one at a time, just every so often, sometimes at dinner, because they're right by the dining table where we are. And we just have a discussion about it as well. And that's what I love, because it prompts us as well. And it's just interesting to know how we got where we are. And sometimes if someone's really interesting, we'll go and find out more about them. So I love CC for that, classical conversations. So then after that usually takes up a morning, depending if, you know, I'm talking about a theory morning, not if we're out, but if we're out and about, I can still do our curriculum, as I say, in the car, on the train, wherever, you know, I can bring it with us. And it's only half an hour for foundations a day, so it's not, you know, it's not all encompassing. And you know, it's just nice. They really do pick up a lot, you know, and it's amazing what they remember. And it's amazing how, another thing I love is that it really does work, because even I've noticed in myself, what it's doing, it's creating, like, the more you use your brain, the more neurons get fired up, right? The more pathways. So it's not like you can combust your brain and know too much. It's a, it's like a muscle, like you can use it. So the more knowledge you put in there, it's like the more your brain gets stronger and wants to work. So I've even noticed, even just seeing in the timeline, like, okay, Mayans and Mesoamerica. Well, guess what? When we were reading, I don't even think, I was reading a science book, I think it was about racism, and it was saying all these names that I'd heard from classical conversations, and it was like every time my brain was like zoop, zoop, like ready to receive. And it's so true. It says when those pathways are created, when you first hear of something, it like opens like a supermarket. Look at it like at aisles. It opens a new aisle, so that now when you go into more information, which is what they do in dialectic and rhetoric, when they start to really delve into some really great text and more information, like really weighty information. Well, it's like your brain is ready to receive new information. So it's like, oh yeah, we know that aisles, there's R5, go and like fill up R5. And it as I say, not just for them, but I'm seeing it in myself. So it's been really exciting. I've found a love for history now, and science. I always love science, to be honest, but even more so now. And can't wait to get onto maths. But I'll tell you, so my eldest and my youngest, they've started classical conversations math curriculum, guys. Oh no, I thought this was something else. Okay, sorry, I thought this was something else, but it's not. This is the release schedule. So it's brand new. It came out. No, it hasn't even come out. It's coming out this year, but we got to trial it for free. And let me tell, again, I used to hate maths, and I actually used to pride myself on that, because I'm like, I say rubbish, and I think a lot of people did, until guys, this is like no other math curriculum you ever, or I have ever seen thus far. It goes all the way from ex nihilo, which is Latin, of course, for nothingness, right? Like in the beginning, God created. And it does maths through God, basically. So I can't even, I'll be here all day. I think I need to do a whole nother video about the math map. Let me get you. Okay, so we are on, 1 second. Okay, this is the, okay, this is the week we're on. We're a bit behind on the actual week. That's a common thing, guys. Don't worry about it. All of us home editors, I don't know if this happens at school, but sometimes you're not always on the week you're meant to be on. But we're not on the week, but we don't mind, because we'll catch up in the summer. Or, it doesn't matter. Like sometimes you need longer. But if you can see exponentiation, exponents basically. So every week you get this art again, art and math, the link together. Okay, and then it gives you some experts things to read out here, and you can say, guys, what can you see? What can, again, the classical model is a lot of questioning, a lot of getting them to ask good questions, and you asking good questions as well. Then we go into just a bit of an introduction about what this section is, okay? And then they have, and we do about 2 or 3 max a day. So they'll have worksheets then. And my eldest and my middle child do this, not my youngest, although she's begging me to do it, because the older ones, they love this so much. They're like, Mum, can we do math map? Can we do math map? And I'm even like, I love this because it follows the classical model where they teach you the language, the grammar, the foundation, and then you build upon that. You don't just jump into exponents. Exponents just means, guys, all the, you know, the brackets, the parentheses, the brackets, and all the power of, and all that, you know, good stuff. And honestly, I used to be so scared of maths, and I'm like, how am I going to teach my kid maths? But that's another thing I love about classical conversations. The answers are here. And guess what? The support is always there. There's always someone. You can contact them through we have a portal, or on Facebook, they've got loads of support groups, or my people around me. Oh, it's just wonderful. It's just honestly the best, because it goes all the way from ex nihilo, nothingness, to multi-dimensions, guys. What? Like, really? I'm so in love with Matt. I thought I'd never say that, because it's making it come alive. Like, it's making sense. Before, it was just like, oh, I was in Italy, not understanding a word of what anyone is saying to me. But now I'm like, and if I don't get it, I can find out. But the way it's structured, it builds upon itself. So you're not as lost as what you usually would be. What I usually would be, sorry, I shouldn't speak for everyone. But that math map is what the elders, my son and my daughter, would do usually together. And then the younger one, she would just do her basic math books, or she'll play through maths, you know, use the counters. But she will be starting that foundation level of that in September, and she's absolutely desperate to do that. So they'll do some of that to get, you know, the elders will do that together. Or she'll be on, we love the app, Reading Eggs app. I don't know if you guys know about it, but Reading Eggs is just a great app. It's got English and maths and reading, and, you know, we've had it for years, and I think it's really helped them, and it's helped me, because that's another practicality of it, that sometimes I'll need to give my attention to one. So while the others are waiting, we alternate. So they'll be on Reading Eggs while I'll be helping one, and then we'll swap over. You know, that's another way I navigate the different ages. And same with English. So now, as I said, my eldest daughter, she's in the older group, the middle group, sorry, she's doing essentials. So she has to do about half an hour of this, and about half an hour of this for the rest of the 4 days out of community day. So an hour on top of the half an hour foundations. And while she's quite independent, so she's quite able to do this by herself, but where she does need my help, again, they'll just be alternating. And if they all need my help at the same time, what we'll do, one will practice their instrument, for the younger two, piano, for the older one, violin and piano. So they'll go and practice their instruments, or they'll do crafts by themselves, or just play, or, as I said, reading eggs. So it's like, and I've heard of people that have really young children, they have like home ed box, so they know, okay, the toddler knows that when mummy's busy with the older ones, that they can play with their toys in the box. I never really had to do that, because my youngest child is just something else. She never wanted to be left out. I wanted her to play. I literally was like, go and play with your toys there in the corner, and she's like bringing a little book, any's book, or she's sitting at the table waiting for me to also give her work. And so I realized quickly, oh, she wants to be involved, which is great. But if she didn't, I wouldn't pressure her either. I would let her play in the corner, which I know a lot of people who have a very, very varied ages, they do that as well. And I know people that also maybe have tutors, as I mentioned before, I love when they have Spanish. They do that all together, while I can get on with something else that's for an hour. But a lot of the time we're just alternating my attention, or we're all at the table at the same time, and they'll just have to wait their turn, because obviously they're not doing the same, apart from foundations, the classical conversation work, they're not all doing the same thing. Because I'll show you while Isabel's doing here, and this is like writing assignments, and this is mainly grammar work that she does here, or spellings and all that, diagramming sentences and learning spelling rules and whatnot. Again, I love this. It's broken up into weeks, so we just follow the week we're on, and it's got all the information there week by week, and all the helps as well in the back. They do charts and stuff, so they can really learn the grammar, the language of, grammar, which, nouns, adverbs, verbs, but really understand, and how to use them as well. They practice how to use them. And then here is this program. Oh, I love it. It's based, so they quite popular, more popular in America, but a lot of homeschoolers use it in the UK that I know. And again, it's just, they have assignments, and there are units broken up into, right now we're on critiquing a story. So how to critique a story. My daughter just did something called Faces of History, where they write a report about someone famous, and then they're going to present as that person. They're going to do that at our end of year celebration. But my daughter has chosen Simone Biles because she's inspired by her a lot, and she read a book in the library, and then since then, so she's decided to be Simone. My eldest is quite sporty, so she relates to her. She used to do gymnastics, but now she loves figure skating, which I see the overlap, so she's still inspired by her. So as I say, Isabel will concentrate on that, and then maybe while the other two are doing, so now I'll show you, they have like different kind of books. I think I mentioned before that we noticed our middle child was struggling with reading and numbers, and so thankfully I have a friend who is dyslexic, and she recommended these books, Letterland, and I actually know someone who said that they use them in their children's school, and that has helped him as well. Personifying the letters has helped him, because he's very visual, so it's like, so he'll work through these. And I've got the handwriting again books, and the good thing is with the handwriting ones especially, he can do those by himself, and then we'll read together, and usually we'll do one line each. So it's taught me patience. But actually, because now my youngest, sometimes they're on a similar level, so they actually can work together on some things. They actually have the same handwriting books in these, because they had both the same cursive writing books, so sometimes they actually work together as well. And I can work with them two together because at the level he's at, and probably the level she's at, yeah, they're just able to, and I'm not, it's not slowness, he's not slow, he's just taking longer to get there, because the way they process the information is just long. So I read, because I was doing a bit of research around it, it's like, it's not that they're slow, it's just that while we connect maybe 4 dots, they are literally collecting so many dots. And so it's just taking them longer to get there, whereas we won't see the big picture, but they will see all the dots. So it's just helping them in the way that helps them. And what I do with my middle child is, for instance, he will do the alphabet in Play-Doh, in Lego, in, you know, he'll have to, he's more hands-on, is my middle child. And then I got this for him as well, just to help him, with the way that he will understand more. He's quite textbook, even though he hasn't been, we haven't gone through the, what's the word, assessed. He has the typical, there's the words jump all over the page, and everything's backwards. And so, you know, some of these books, they'll do, you know, they have the different ways that they see things. So, you know, I learned that if the child is not getting something, it's not the child's fault. I have to look at the way I'm doing it. So as I say, as Isabel will be more independent doing her, she can read and write fine. So she can get on more, and she follows instructions quite well. So I would maybe be sitting down with him, or I could even, sometimes I do tag team. So and it teaches them patience as well. Say we're on the table and one is at each end. Say the eldest is asking me a question, even the youngest, and I'm like, okay, yep, and then he will. So sometimes I find that too crazy. So I say, no, can you go and practice your instrument, or go and reading eggs while I concentrate here, and then we'll swap. So that's kind of the way I prefer, not because obviously it fries my brain. So, and he's got stuff like this, you know, tricky spellings in cartoons for children. To be honest, I love Amazon because, so Isabel, multiplication is the basis for a lot of maths, what they do. So, and in CC they do math multiplications from 1 to 15. So just to solidify that and help her with her mental maths, I just got this book that because she loves maths. So, you know, Amazon do some great resources as well. I get a lot of good stuff for Elijah. Now, other than classical conversations, which we do the one room schoolhouse is, okay, say another thing about it, it's not just that they're together and they might be doing the same thing sometimes, but even if they're not doing the same work and they're hearing me talk to the elder or whoever about what they're doing. So it's like, for example, if I'm talking to one of my children wanted to do photosynthesis the other day, so then even if the others are not involved, they're hearing about it, they know, you know, they're knowing what's going on. So that is the one room schoolhouse, and they can help each other, or they can, you know, converse, they can collaborate. So it's really, it's based on the old concept of how we used to learn, just not this division of ages and, you know, of learning, but it's just a natural way of learning. Sometimes we will come back together and do, so other than Latin, before we started classical conversations, we were doing Spanish, and we were using apps like Duolingo, but now we do the £2 tuition hub, and we do some textbooks. I think I've said before, I like layered learning. So, you know, touching all the learning styles, seeing, hearing, doing. I know there's fancy words for them, and I don't remember them, but same thing. But so they'll do this all together. They'll work together on this, and, you know, it's nice to see them collaborate, you know, with each other as well, because at least they've got someone to talk to in Spanish as well. And then this math book. So sometimes I'm like, okay, let's just do it all together. So look, when we were learning the time, we just did it all together. Or, you know, if we're doing a craft, or I also want to touch, if we're doing a craft, we can do it all together. And I also want to touch on trips, because sometimes trips are age specific or years, grade specific, or year, what we call it in the UK. So, for instance, there are certain places that I think, because they're so used to the school system. For example, we went to, where did we go? Oh gosh. Okay, so the Science Museum. The Science Museum, I was trying to, we focused on the body in science, this what we call cycle. So I wanted to do a trip that coincided with that. And it was so hard to get them to understand that it's okay for our toddlers to be with our 12-year-olds, like they'll be fine, they're used to it. But they were really reluctant, and they made us go on their home education day instead. And it was fine. Like, and I know that we're used to it. And we went to, why is the name gone out of my head? The castle. We went to a castle. Again, they were worried, and I reassured them. And then they ended up saying that the kids were, it was amazing. And I think it's breaking down this barrier that they have to be the same age. And, actually the youngers feed off the olders, and the olders look after the youngers. And it's just beautiful to see the cohesion. So we know it works, but not everyone does. And in those instances, when they don't, what we do, so for example, we will be going to Kew Gardens soon. There's an age limit of, I think, 6 or 7. And I get it. Some things have to have an age limit. For example, my eldest, she's going to be doing a L'Oreal lab, cosmetic session. And I get it. You have to be, I think, 7 or 8 or certain grades. So she'll be going by herself, and I will just wait around with the youngers, find somewhere local to wait around. So it's a drop off, what we call a drop off. But even at Kew, so my 2 eldest are allowed to go. The younger one is not old enough. So I just partnered up with a friend who also has a child that's under the two children actually under that age limit. And we've decided I will go in with our 4, it works out 4 older ones to do, they're going to be doing a science plant workshop at Kew Gardens. And she will look after my child in Kew Gardens with her other 2 younger children. And so happy days. So you can work around that. So even though they might not be together all the time, there are ways to work around it. And I like to call myself, I've self-titled myself. Self-titled? I've self-titled. It just doesn't sound right. But I've self-titled myself a facilitator of learning. I need to make a t-shirt of that. Sorry, we have all these ideas of like witty ideas of what t-shirts to make. So one is, the world is my classroom. Guys, I came up with that first. I've been seeing that lately. No, I'm joking. Obviously nothing new under the sun. There's no new ideas, are there? We're all going around. But if you hear that one, I'm a facilitator of learning. So we like to have a lot of books, a lot of, just instruments, a lot of opportunities for them to explore, a lot of crafts, and we just like them to be in an environment that is conducive to learning. And so I just wanted to show you a few things that I have lying around. As I say, we like questioning things, and we like exploring, we like knowledge, we love science, we love maths, we love history. And these books are great, the answers books for kids, and they're based on Christianity, the Bible. There's 6 volumes, and it just goes through questions, like, why did God let Adam name the animals? Why didn't he name them himself? Good question. But and the kids can just, my eldest can pick it up and read it, and then we sometimes will read it to the youngers. Again, that's a good question. You know, things like, were there dinosaurs on the ark? But and then now my eldest is growing up and going into puberty. Now we love books, guys. We're bookworms, we're book family. But I recently got this Growing Up God's Way, and it's just amazing resource all about puberty and growing up, you know, and yeah, again, good conversations, good questions, starters, and yeah. So I hope that gives you an idea, and maybe helps you. If you've got any ideas, please let me know. I'd love, you know, I'm always open to ideas. And if you've got any questions or you want to know any more, please let me know in the comments. Love to have a conversation, and yeah, just looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Please like and subscribe, and God bless you.